Springland Gardens, quality homes for a lifetime of happiness. Homes starting at 1.8 million with 3 ensuite bedrooms, fully air-conditioned, partially furnished. Find us on Facebook or Instagram or call us at 1-868-792-1155.
Villa Santosh, 3 en-suite bedroom villa in Silver Palms, Tobago, fully air-conditioned, indoor and outdoor cooking, secured parking, pool. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or call or WhatsApp 1-868-327-0357.
Kuldevalaya Pitritirtha, a shrine for our ancestors.
We would like to welcome Pandit Durga Prasad Sharma. He would be doing the Vedic invocation prayers to light the diya together with Dad, Uncle Ramesh, and Mom.
Jai Guru Datta, Jai Sitaram, Jai Sri Hanuman. So we are going to start this evening's program formally with the lighting of the lamp, which is traditional in this temple. So the honors for lighting of the lamp will be given to the celebrant, Dr. Rambachan, and also his wife, his dear wife, while Panditji chants the appropriate mantra. So this will commence this evening's program.
Om Jyotismadin Vasadayami Jyotishkrutan Vasadayami Jyotirvidan Vasadayami Bhasvatin Vasadayami Jvalantin Vasadayami Manmala Bhavantin Vasadayami Deepyamanant Vasadayami Rochamanant Vasadayami Nujasrant Vasadayami Bruhajyotishan Vasadayami Bodhayantin Vasadayami Jagratin Vasadayami Bodhibadev Rupasvam Karma Sakshi Hyavighnakrita Yavat Puja Samaptisyat Tavat Prajvalasasira Om Prayasaya Swaha Yasaya Swaha Vyasaya Swaha Sanjasaya Swaho Odyasaya Swaha Vyasaya Swaha Shuche Swaha Shokaya Swaha Tapyatvai Swaha Tapataya Swaha Brahmahatyajai Swaha Sarvasmai Swaha Chittagum Santanena Bhavanyaknardrantanim Nabashupatiggusthola Hrudayena Agdegum Hrudayena Rudram Lohitena Sharbam Matasnabhyam Mahadevamantah Parshve Noshishtahanagum Shinginigoshya Abhyam Kranishvabhajah Pratidinna Prithvin Jahirajayavama Bhagum Ibhena Trishvemanu Prasidandrona Sthasi Vidhyarakshasastabishtaihi Tava Brahmasa Ashayapatantyana Sprushadhrusha Shoshujanaha Tapogushyagne Jihvapatangana Sandito Visarja Vishvagulkaha Pratispasho Visarjaturnitamo Bhava Pajurvisho Asya Adabdha Yono Dure Akashagum Saha Deepa Dhishtana Devataye Sarvopachara Pujam Samarpayami Om Krunishvabhajah Prasidinna Prithvin Jahirajayavama Vagum Ibhena Trishvemanu Prasidandronano Sthasi Vidhyarakshasastabishtaihi Om Ganana Antva Ganapatigum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspada Anashinvannotibhissidu Sadanam Ano Divo Bruhatah Parvatata Saraswati Jatagantu Yajnam Havan Devi Dudushana Krutachi Shagman Novachamashati Shanotu Sachidanandaya Vidmahe Guru Shresthaja Dhimahi Tanna Shri Guru Prachodayat Om Mama Agne Varcho Vihave-shvastavayantvayanthanastanubam Bushema Mahyan Namantam Pratishashatasrastvayadhyakshena Pratanajayema Mama Deva Vihave Santu Sarva Indra Banto Maruto Vishnu Ragnihi Mama Antarikshamurugopamastu Mahyan Vatah Pavatang Kame Asmin Maya Deva Dravinamaya Jantam Maya Shirastu Maya Deva Hutihi Daivyahoda Ravanishantapurve Rishtasyamatanoba Suvira Aha Mahyan Jajantu Mamayani Habjakutis Satyamanaso Me Astu Yeno Maniga Ankatamachanaham Vishve Devaso Adhivochada Me Daivi Ishadarvir Runah Krunota Vishve Devasa Ihavir Yadvam Maha Asmahi Prajayamatano Bhirmara Dhamad Vishate Somarajan Agnirmanyam Pradinudan Purastadabdho Gopah Paripahinastvam Pratyuncho Yantu Nigutah Punaste Maisha Anchittam Prabudha Vineshata Dhata Dhatunam Bhuvanasya Yaspatir Devagum Savitaram Abhimatishaham इमं यज्ञमश्विनो भा बृहस्पतिर्देवाः पान्तु यजमानन्यर्थात् पुरुव्यचानो महिषः शर्म यगुं सदस्मिन् हवे पुरुहूतः पुरुक्षु सनः प्रजायी हर्यश्वमृडजेन्द्रमानो रीरुषो मापरादाः येन सपत्ना अपते भवन्विन्द्राग्निभ्यामपबाधामहेतान् वसवो रुद्रा आदित्या उपरिस्पृशं मोग्रञ्चेत्तारमधिराजमक्रन् अर्वाञ्चमिन्द्रमभुतो हवामहे योगो जिद्धनजिदश्वजिद्यः इमन्नो यज्ञं विहवेजुषस्वास्य कुर्मो हरिवो मेदिनं त्वा मम नाम प्रथमं जातवेदः पिता माता च दधुर्यदग्रे तत्त्वं बिभ्रूहि पुनरामदयितोस्तवाहन्नाम बिभराण्यग्ने मम नाम तव च जातवेदो वाससि इव विवसानूये चरावः आयुषे त्वं जीवसे वयं यथा यथं विपरिदधावहि पुनस्ते नमोऽग्नये प्रतिविद्धाय नमो नाधृष्टाय नमः सम्राजे अषाढो अग्निर्बृहद्वया विश्वजित् सहन्त्यश्रेष्ठो गन्धर्वः त्वत्पितारो अग्ने देवास्त्वामाहुतयस्त्वद्विवाचनाः सम्मामायुषा सङ्गोपत्येन सुहिते माधाः अयमग्निश्रेष्ठतमोऽयं भगवत्तमो यगुं सहस्रसातमः अस्मास्तु सुवीर्यं मनोज्योतिर्जुषतामाज्यं विच्छिन्नं यज्ञगुं समिमं दधातु बृहस्पतिस्तनुतामिमन्नो विश्वे देवा इहमादयन्तां ब्रध्रपिन्वस्वदततो मे माक्षाय कुर्वतो मे मोपदसत्प्रजापतेर्भागो ओस्यूर्जस्वान् पयस्वान् प्राणापानो मे पाहि समानव्यानो मे पाह्युदानव्यानो ह्युदानव्यानो मे पाह्यक्षितोऽस्त्यक्षित्यै त्वा मामे एक्ष्येष्ठा अमुत्रामस्मिन् लोके शतमानं भवति शतायुः पुरुषशतेन्द्रिय आयुष्येवेन्द्रिये प्रतिष्ठति रोचनो रोचमानः शोभनः शोभमानः कल्याणः मङ्गलानि भवन्तु एतत्फलं श्रीपरमेश्वरार्पणमस्तु हरिः ओम्
Namaste. It is difficult to believe that 5 years ago we were all together to celebrate Dad's 70th birthday. Wow. How appropriate is it that we are here at the Dattatreya with the Hanuman Murti overlooking these proceedings. Hanuman, who is celebrated on a Saturday and who is in fact the family deity of the Rambachans. And of course, we always say that Trinidad is Hanuman country. I'm very happy to see here today His Worship the Mayor for Arima, Baliram Maharaj, but more known as Uncle Bali, Uncle Tony Smart, MP Rudy Indar Singh, the President of Dattatreya, Uncle Ramesh, sorry, everybody's uncle and auntie for me, and former Ambassador, Uncle Patrick Edwards. In the last 5 years, it has been very eventful. We've lived through a pandemic, something that we may have never thought we would have seen, and Dad also was one of the survivors of COVID in the very early stages. In the last 5 years, you also would have seen the establishment of Dad's virtual satsangs, held first from our home and then from the Kuladeva Laya Pitri Tirtha, which is a shrine which was built for our ancestors. And it is with this that I would remember Uncle Dad, who was here for Dad's 70th birthday and front and center always, but who left us 1 year ago. We also remember Auntie Gyani, who without a doubt would have been seated on the stage here tonight, having never missed a celebration. Thank you everyone for being here today. Your attendance is a testament to your love and admiration for Dad, whether as a management consultant, radio announcer, politician, religious figurehead or otherwise. Everyone here today has some connection with Dad and some admiration for him. Personally, when in practice and I'd be introduced to a client, they would look at me and be like, "You're Suruj's daughter, could see it in your face." Our celebration started last night at Atmagyan Mandir, and our family goes back, as always, our family would go back to Dad's hometown to start celebrations. We are continuing tonight, speaking about what would Sri Ram do, with Uncle Anand, whose profile I will give you some tidbits from. He is a professor emeritus of religion at St. Olaf College, Minnesota. He was also Forum Humanum visiting professor at the Academy for the Study of World Religions at the University of Hamburg in Germany. His books included Accomplishing the Accomplished, The Vedas as a Source of Valid Knowledge, Vivekananda's reinterpretation of the authority of the Vedas, A Hindu Theology of Liberation, Essays in Hindu Theology, and Pathways to Hindu-Christian Dialogue. He has authored numerous book chapters and journal essays, and the British Broadcasting Corporation also transmitted a series of 25 lectures on Hinduism by him around the world. He has been involved in interreligious relations and dialogue for over 40 years as a Hindu contributor and analyst. He is a co-president of Religions for Peace, the largest global interfaith network, and serves as president of the board of Arigato International New York, which is a global organization which advocates for the rights of children and mobilizing the resources of religions to overcome violence against children. He also chairs the board of directors of the Minnesota Multi-Faith Network. He's active in the dialogue programs of the World Council of Churches and the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue at the Vatican. He currently participates in the Ethics in Action dialogues at the Pontifical Academy of Sciences. In 2008, at the invitation of the Archbishop of Canterbury, Professor Rambachan delivered the distinguished Lambeth Interfaith Service at the Lambeth Palace in London. He also led the first two White House celebrations of the Hindu festival of Diwali in 2003 and 2004. I'd like to invite Uncle Anand to the sannyasin.
शांति विदेह सुरा सहचारी शांति विदेह सुरा सहचारी शांति विदेह सुरा सहचारी नगर अयोध्या नगर बिहारी खेलति मम हृदये श्री रामा खेलति मम हृदये परमहंस साम्राज्ञोधारी परमहंस साम्राज्ञोधारी परमहंस साम्राज्ञोधारी सत्य ज्ञान अनंत शरीरे खेलति मम हृदये श्री रामा खेलति मम हृदये राम 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 जय रघुनंदन जय जय राम जय रघुनंदन जय जय राम जय जगत जननी And last night we were the guests of the Atma Gyan Mandir in Avukat, where we were hosted by Balrupji and Uma and the members of his temple community. And tonight we are here at the Dattatreya Mandir, blessed by the grace of Sri Ganapati Sachidananda Swamiji, the inspiration for this beautiful temple here. So we are honored to be here and to be at the feet of Sri Hanumanji and to receive his grace as we gather. And for these satsangs, I have chosen to speak on what would Sri Ram do. And the last night I spoke on his vision of family, his commitment to family values. I selected a few important themes, a few important insights from the Ramcharitmanas to highlight his commitment to family health and family well-being. And I tried to show that when he received the announcement, when his teacher came to his apartment in the palace to inform him that his father had announced his coronation, his first thoughts were about his family. And Tulsidas, the author of the text, says that his heart was troubled because there were 4 brothers, they were born together, they ate every meal together, they slept together, they played together, they got married on the same day. There was nothing that was not shared among them. But only one could become the king. Only one could sit on the throne. And so his heart was troubled by the fact that even though he was being elevated as the firstborn by only a few minutes, he worried that this would cause a distance between himself and his brothers, that they would see him now as the king and not the brother with whom they slept, ate, played, and had all of their life cycle rituals performed. I talked also about the fact that for him, family was also about ethical commitments, moral values, that for the sake of the moral integrity of his family, the very next day he gave up the throne. One day he was selected to be king. The next day he gave up the throne to preserve the moral integrity of his family, to preserve his father's word. A 14-year exile for a prince is not an ordinary choice to make, but for him, family was also about ethics, about commitment to certain moral principles, in this case, the principle of truth. And at the end of the text, after it was all over, he had lost and regained Sita Ji, the struggle with Ravana was over, Vibhishana became the king of Lanka. After 14 years of wandering the forests and in search of Sita, and finally an epic struggle to get her back, the battle was over. And Vibhishana, Ravana's brother, who became the king of Lanka, said to him, "Everything I have is yours. My wealth, this palace is now your own. Come, enjoy the luxury of the kingdom of Sri Lanka. Come and rest and refresh yourself before going back to Ayodhya." Why not, after 14 years, a moment of luxurious life for a prince? But his mind again went to family. His first thought after the battle was over was about family. And he said, "What you say is true, but Bharata dasa sumirata mohi." But my mind is now centered on Bharat. Because I gave Bharat my word. When I asked him to take my place on the throne, I gave him my word that I will return after 14 years. And he chose to live an ascetic life like me. For 14 years, Bharat did not live in the palace. He constructed a small hut of grass and leaves outside of the headquarters of his administration and lived like his brother there. He placed the sandals of Ram, as you know, on the throne, but he refused to sit on the throne because he didn't regard himself as the legitimate ruler of Ayodhya. So I'm thinking of Bharat, he said, because I gave my word to him, and I know that he has been living for 14 years this ascetic life like me. Tapasa vesha gata Krishna japata nirantara mohi. I know if I don't turn up in Ayodhya exactly as I promised, Bharat will not live. So please, I don't want the luxuries of Sri Lanka. Make arrangements for me to get to my brother. And this was Ram. This is the Ram that we honor. The Ram who had this kind of deep love and commitment to his family. Tonight, I want you to be with me for this second discussion. And my topic tonight follows from what I spoke about last night, Ram's commitment to family. But I want to lift up and highlight tonight some of the important lessons we can learn from him about leadership in these times. What would he do as a leader in our times? How would Ram lead? And what can we learn from his example of leadership? And I'm not speaking only of political leadership. Certainly, I'm including that. But we all have leadership roles in life. We are leaders in our families. If you're a father or you're a mother, you are a leader in your family. If you're a grandparent, you also have a leadership role. As uncles, as aunts, we have leadership roles in our workplaces, places of employment, in our temples. We might be the captain of a sports team, and that's also leadership. So I'm considering leadership in the widest sense, not narrowly about political leadership. So how would Ram lead? And how can we learn from his example? Because I think that as we look around our world today, including here in our beautiful island of Trinidad and Tobago, we can describe the predicament of our world in various ways. I think it is fair also to describe it as a crisis of leadership. Certainly, among the multiple forms of crisis, here also is a crisis. And I'm going to be selective. I can't, be comprehensive in my discussion of Ram as a leader, but simply to turn a spotlight on a few, what I see as important and distinguishing characteristics of his approach to leadership. And these are not necessarily in order, but perhaps you might discern a certain order in what I am saying. The first is trust. Trust. In Sanskrit, the word for trust is Shraddha. Trust. Every institution in a society, every profession needs trust for its proper functioning. Just for a moment, think about it. Sometimes we don't often, think about how important trust is for the good functioning of any society. How much do we trust others on a day-to-day basis? Even entrusting our lives to others. Every time you get on a plane, it is an act of trust in many, many ways. You trust that those who serviced that plane did their jobs and didn't cut corners. You trust that you have a responsible pilot in the cockpit. That's an act of trust. The medical profession is a profession based on trust. Yes, you can always have a second opinion, but at some point you have to stop the opinions and decide and accept a diagnosis and a course of treatment. Doctor-patient relationship is a relationship that is based on trust. Parishioners trust their priests. So trust is an essential ingredient in any community, private or public. And we see the chaos that follows when there is a lack of trust. Just think about, as we said, we have 5 years ago, we were on the brink of COVID. And we have all come through that difficult period, and we are alive. But I'm sure you will recall how difficult it was to know whether the information you were receiving was accurate. There was a mistrust about basic information. What is true? What information I can trust? Which source I can trust? Across the world, it was a question with which people struggled on a daily basis. Which medication should I take? Or should I not take any medication? And today, with the explosion of information on social media, trust has become a very significant matter. Which sources do you trust? What information on the internet do you trust? Google? Is Google the guru? Can I trust everything my search engine calls up when I ask a question? Ram understood the significance of trust as a leader. There are many ways for a leader to earn trust. And I want to say, trust is something that is earned, that you have to work at. Sometimes people will bestow you trust by the fact of birth, but for most of us, trust has to be earned. And he, from his family, he learned very quickly that there is a relationship between truth and trust. Between truth and trust. In the Sanskrit word for truth is satya, and trust is shraddha. So there is a relationship between satya and shraddha, truth and trust. The more truthful you prove yourself to be to others, the more trustworthy you become. And as I mentioned last night, that his family, the Raghu dynasty, had worked very hard to establish and to earn trust by their fidelity to truth. And so in the text, we have the famous line that I shared last night, that almost every student of Ramayana knows. Raghukula riti sada chaliyai, pran jai baru vachan na jai. That this family is known for the fact that they will give their lives first before they betrayed a promise made to another, especially a promise made to the citizens. And to earn that trust, to preserve that trust, as I said, in his family, he accepted an exile of 14 years for the sake of preserving the trust as a leader for both his father and for himself. There was a point when he went into exile. He was alone. His father wanted to send some of his staff, if I would put it in that way, some of his staff to help him in exile, because he grew up as a prince and he had never lived on his own, or he never had to take care of himself. His father sent some of his staff. Why don't you go with him and help him? Of course, he turned them back because this was not the terms under which he went into exile. Tapasa Vesha, he had to go into exile as an ascetic without any help or support. But when he went into exile, he met many people. And he met many tribal communities, because this was an exile in the forest. And he met a tribal leader by the name of Guha. And Guha recognized him as the prince of Ayodhya and says, why don't you come and spend your time with us? You don't have to go anywhere else. Come. We are forest dwellers. We know how to survive in this forest. Our land, our wealth is yours. What would be a temptation? He could pass his 14 years there and quietly return to Ayodhya. The tribal community said, we'll take care of you. Come stay with us. he said that this is not the word that I pledged. This was not the promise that I made. My promise was to live as a hermit in food and dress, to build my own home, to find my own food, my own clothing. And staying in your village, I'm grateful for your hospitality, but staying in your village will not be consistent. It will violate the word that I pledged. We would lose the trust. It will create mistrust. There is a very beautiful verse, not in Ramayana, but in the Bhagavad Gita, where Sri Krishna speaks about leadership. This is in the third chapter of the text, third chapter, verse 21, where he says, Yadyaracharati sreshta tattarevetaro janaha sayat pramanam kurute lokastaran vartate. Whatever he repeats, whatever, yad acharati sreshtaha, whatever a leader does in a community, it affects the community. The community is not exempt from the effects of a leader's actions, a leader's choices. And he says what the leader does, not what the leader says. The community is affected by the actions of its leaders. Sayat pramanam kurute lokastananu vartate. That whatever standards or values leaders speak about or practice, there is a ripple effect. Lokastananu vartate. There is a ripple effect in the rest of the community. And he was speaking there to Arjuna to remind him of his responsibilities as a leader, because you have a community that is looking up to you, and your actions matter. The disciples of Confucius asked him on one occasion, what are the three things necessary for a government to stay in power? What are the three things necessary for a government to stay in power? And the wise Confucius said, the state must be able to utilize force through weapons. He mentioned having weapons as the first. The second is to ensure that everyone is fed, that people's food needs are met. In other words, to ensure the security of people, to ensure that their needs are well met. Food, that's what food represents. Weapons represents, providing security for the community. And the third, he said, is trust. Trust. So they asked him, Reverend Confucius, suppose all three are not possible. Which one would you let go first? He said, well, if it is not possible, let the state give up its weapons. And after that, he said, let the state give up its food. But the government will fall if the state loses trust. It has nothing to stand on. Trust should be guarded. Trust has to be the last, he said. Because without trust, he says, the state does not stand. The state cannot stand. Even Ravana understood trust, even though he abused it. As you know, when he went to abduct Sita, he went in the dress of a of a ascetic, of a renunciant, of a sannyasin. Why? He knew that she trusted that that color of clothing. So he went in the dress of a religious person because of the fact that religious person had trust. And that's why, we have so many sad stories in recent years of the abuse of trust by religious leaders, especially to children. That's a very sad violation of trust. When a child experiences violence at the hands of a trusted religious leader. And unfortunately, we've had so many examples of that in recent times. But what about trust and power? How do we use power when others give to us their trust? When you are entrusted by a community with power, how do you use that power? Because the use of power trust is also contingent on how those in power use that power. I will give you an example from the Ramayana. So for those of you who might not be familiar with how whenever we speak from this text, what we do, I am using or basing my talk on the text we speak of as Ramayana, but this is a particular version of the Ramayana. It's called Ramcharitmanas, the lake that is filled with the deeds or the actions of Sri Ram. It was composed by a great religious poet in the 15th century, Tulsidas. And his gift to us is that he wrote the story of Sri Ram in poetic form. He wrote it in a local dialect, but he used certain beautiful musical meters to compose his text. These meters are what we call Chaupai and Doha. The Chaupai is a 4-line rhyming meter, and the Doha is a 2-line rhyming meter. So he composed this text to be sung. And so it's our tradition that when we speak from the text, we sing. We sing the text and then offer a commentary on the text. So this is what I will do at various points. But don't be anxious. I will not speak for very long. So I want you to be assured that I am not one who would keep you listening to me even when I read impatience in your face. But a few more examples from the text. So, sometime after his exile from the city of Ayodhya, now he's in the company of Sita and Lakshman. They have crossed the Ganges rivers. They are meeting villagers along the way, and they come to a very important monastery, an important ashram, the ashram of a great poet whose name is Valmiki. And so Ram was welcomed and greeted by this poet who escorted him to his monastery, to his ashram, gave him a seat and offered food to him. And after the meal, Ram spoke to him and made a request that I want to highlight because it says something very important about my next point on leadership. I hope you will connect with the music of the text as we sing. देखी पाय मुनि राय तुम्हारे भये सुकृत सब सुफल हमारे। देखी आय मुनि राय तुम्हारे, भये सुकृत सब सफल हमारे। अब जहाँ राउर आयस होई, अब जहाँ राउर आयस होई, मुनि उद्वेगन पावन कोई। जय राम जय राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम, जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम। मुनि तापस जिन ते दुख लई, ते नरेश बिनु पावक रही। मंगल मूल विप्र परितोषु, दहे कोटि कुल भूषण रोषु। श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम, जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम, जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम, जय राम श्री राम जय जय राम। So he accepts the hospitality of the saint and then asks him a question. I will go wherever you direct me, Ram says. Please tell me, you know the forests, well, you live here in these forests and you know this place very well. I want to find a place to build a small hut. So please direct me. And then we get the surprising part of his request. No one dwelling here before me should be adversely affected by my presence. Tell me where to go, but please ensure that my presence does not adversely affect those who are already dwelling on this land. Now, the significance of this has to be seen in the context of the fact that here is the son of Dasarath. He's recognized as such by Valmiki. He's in exile, but he's still the son of Dasarath. He could choose any place to build a home where he wants to live with his wife and his brother. But to me, was very significant that he added this qualification to his request, that no one already here should be displaced by my presence, by the abode that I choose. So he recognizes that there are others who have made their homes here and who have rights. Who have rights. Why would he mention this condition? Because, as I said, the poet has recognized who he is, and the poet may be tempted to give him the best place, to show him the best place to build a hut, but he wants to neutralize any such wish on the part of the poet by specifying this condition that no one dwelling here should be displaced or adversely affected by my presence. Think for a moment. If you think that this is not significant, a significant action on the part of a royal figure, think of what colonial powers did to indigenous communities and their land. Which colonial power said, let those who are already living here not be disturbed or displaced by our presence? They recklessly exploited indigenous communities and indigenous land in Central America, South America, Latin America, without any regard for the rights of those who were already there. Seizing land without consideration for the fact that there were occupiers before their arrival. So what we see here, in other words, there were no moral limits. Colonialism lacked moral limits. But what we see here in Ram is a self-imposed moral limit to power. In the way in which he uses power. Let not those already living here be adversely affected by my presence. The effects on others. He's considering the impact of his presence on others. Let this be a powerful example for us, especially for leaders who always seek to claim privileges above all else, above everyone else. Somehow the belief is that once I assume a position of leadership, that comes naturally with privileges that will distinguish me from everyone else. But here we see a humble use of power, a humble consideration for the well-being of others. And as I said, if he chose a place, there's no one to challenge him. There's no one to question his authority. There's no law to hold him accountable. But he's very much cognizant as he continues in his dialogue to say that there is a moral law. He's not subject to any legal sanctions, but he is being obedient to a moral law. That moral law is that I should not inflict, that my leadership does not grant me privileges which might imply inflicting hurt on others. This is a very beautiful, for me, example of leadership in Sri Ram. And I mention this because, as I said, today in so many spheres of life, we see the reckless use of power around our world. Power is not often wielded with any sense of moral limits or any reverence for ethics. And that includes corruption as well. Corruption is an abuse also of power without any regard for the common good. So each one of us, in some way or the other, we are leaders, and let us exercise leadership with moral responsibility, as we see here in the case of Sri Ram. Trust moral limits to the way in which you use power. Thirdly, the third quality that I want to lift from Sri Ram is his willingness to accept help from qualified people. The willingness to accept help from qualified people as a feature of his leadership. No leader, whatever the leader might think about himself or herself, has all the knowledge and skills needed to accomplish the multiple purposes of a good government. And here speaking about political leadership. To acknowledge this fact and to choose appropriate persons for different tasks is a requirement of good leadership. Now, you may not be familiar, some of you are familiar with the text, some are not. But think of the many times and occasions when Ram turned to others for help. Of course, with Ram, those of us who come from the Hindu tradition think of Ram as God incarnate. But that doesn't stop him from asking for help. He turns to others constantly for help, on the basis of the fact that he recognizes that there are people who know more than him about certain things, and that he also is dependent on them. Again, both a demonstration of humility. So let me give you some examples. He turned to Guha, the indigenous leader. Guha introduced him to the different trees in the forest, showed him an Ashoka tree under which he could find shelter, taught him how to make a bed. He learned from this indigenous leader, Guha, how to make a bed out of grass, something that he did not know before his exile. Guha taught him. Guha showed him which fruits in the forest, which plants were edible and which were not, which ones were poisonous and which ones were edible. As I said, Guha also offered him hospitality to stay with him for 14 years, which he turned down. But I mentioned Guha, this indigenous leader, to whom Ram turned for help, for another important reason. Guha is in the Ramayana, he comes from a tribe called the Nishadas. He's a Nishada leader. And in the traditional social hierarchy of Indian society at that time, the Nishadas were very low in the hierarchy of what we call castes. He would be a low caste person. So it is very instructive that Ram does not look at Guha's status. He looks at his knowledge, his wisdom, his expertise. He accepts his hospitality, and his acceptance is not determined by Guha's wealth or his power or his status, but his skill and his love. His skill and his love. In fact, one of the outstanding features of Ram in exile is the way in which he related to indigenous communities. The Adivasis, we call them. In India, they're called Adivasis, the first inhabitants. The Adivasis, those who were there first. How he related to them and the honor with which he treated them. So much so that the author of the text himself, after describing Ram's relationship with these indigenous and tribal communities, gives us one of the most famous, for me at least, one of the most famous and important lines in the whole of this sacred text. And I don't think, there should ever be a commentary on the Ramayana without lifting up this one verse. These words that were uttered after the observation of Ram's interaction with indigenous communities. राम ही केवल प्रेम प्यारा, राम ही केवल प्रेम प्यारा, जान ले जो जान निहारा। राम ही केवल प्रेम प्यारा, राम ही केवल प्रेम प्यारा, जान ले जो जान निहारा। राम सकल बन चरत बटों से, कही मृदु वचन प्रेम करितो से। श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम, श्री राम जय जय राम। 5 words. Probably these 5 words are the essence of the entire Ramcharitmanas. If you remember anything from Ramayana, remember these 5 words. Ramahi, Ramahi keval premu pyara. Keval means only. Keval, only. For Ram, Ramahi keval premu pyara. That Ram, if I were to translate this literally, it would be Ram loves love. Only. Ram only loves love. Ram hi keval premu pyara. Ram only loves love. Jani leu jo jan nihara. If you care, the writer asks, this is what you have to understand. For those who care, this is what is to be understood. That for Ram, Ram loves love. Ram hi keval premu pyara. And exercises power from a place of love. Exercises power from a place of love. So, love becomes the foundation of everything, of all of his leadership qualities. They spring from a place of love. But his willingness to seek help and to select the most qualified for a task is demonstrated in so many ways. We are here in the presence of Hanumanji, the beautiful Murti of Hanuman, standing outside. And I think his ability to discern skillful people and to draw them into his work is probably best demonstrated in his relationship with Hanumanji. It was a question of judgment, a leader's judgment, that led him to select Hanumanji. It was his power of discernment. And you might remember, in the text, that when the servants of Sugriva were about to depart for Lanka to gain information about Hanumanji, Tulsidas says, Pache Pavana Tanas Siru Nava. Hanumanji came last. This was typical of him. He came last to Sri Ram. And when Ram saw him, he realized Jani Kaja Prabhu Nikata Bulava, that this was the one. This was a person who was capable of executing a task, of accomplishing a purpose. And so he chose to give him his ring. And so we can multiply these examples from the Ramayana of a leader finding the right people for the right reasons. This was one of the reasons why Ravana failed. And the text comments on that. Ravana's problem is that he lacked this discernment about who would serve him. So much so that, you have this important verse. Sachiva Vaira Guru Tini Jau Priya Bolehi Bhaya As Raja Dharma Tanatini Kara Hoi Begahi Nas. Important verse about leadership. A leader here's a text says, a leader who selects people for his administration based on the fact that they flatter him or her, based on flattery of the leader. Priya bola hai, those who speak sweetly and praise the leader. Those who are always at the feet of the leader. Or selects people who demonstrate fear of the leader. Priya bola he asks. So, and he gives an example. A guru, a doctor, or a minister who praises a leader, who is selected for a job on the basis of his ability to praise the leader, or because of fear for the leader, then you will soon lose your health. If you look to a doctor who's always going to tell you, oh, you are in the perfect health. If that's what you want to hear, then you will soon lose your health. And if you select a minister who always tells you you are the greatest leader and you are irreplaceable, you will soon fall from power. Raja Dharma, you will soon lose. You will soon lose power. So you want people, Ram, you want people who can speak the truth to you, can be critical of you, don't be afraid of them. You should select people who are fearless, without bhaya, who are fearless. And your administration would flourish. It will be a flourishing one. I should mention, I'm coming to the end of my lecture, the ability to express gratitude is another important quality of Ram as a leader. He was constantly saying thank you. He didn't take the service of others for granted. So many opportunities in Ramayana where he would express deeply, with tears in his eyes, even those who revered him as God. He said, thank you. And we have the most powerful moments in the Ramcharitmanas where he spoke to Hanumanji. Said, no one has served me like you. What do you want? How can I reward you? And we have the very famous answer. Love for you is my reward. Please bless me with more love. The final point that I want to make tonight, I wish, is something that I will develop on another occasion in great detail, is vision. Vision. There is no good leadership without a vision. A leader has to be visionary. A leader must have a vision for his community, for his nation, or even for the world in which we live. And coming back to what I said before, and the capacity to persuade people, to bring people along, to strive for that vision, and to select the right people who can help to accomplish that vision. Ram had a vision as a leader. He had a vision for his community. The end of Ramayana is not the return of Ram to Ayodhya, as we often think it is. The end of Ramayana is what we speak of as Ram Rajya. Ram Rajya. You can translate it as the kingdom of Ram, the kingdom of God, Ram Rajya. It is Ram Rajya. It is not a Hindu kingdom. It is a human kingdom based on a vision, on Ram's vision. And so I want to conclude just with two verses that describe Ram's vision for his community as a leader. So here's where I want to end my talk with this, with Ram's vision, with Ram Rajya. Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Ram, Shri Ram, Shri Ram, Daihik Daivik Bhautit Tapa, Ram Raja nahi kahuk vyapa, Ram Shri Ram, Ram Shri Ram, Daivik Daivik Bhautik Tapa, Ram Raja nahi kahuk vyapa, Ram Shri Ram. सब सुंदर सब विरज शरीरा, राम श्री राम, राम श्री राम। नहीं दरिद्र को दुखी न दीना, नहीं को अबुधन लक्षण दीना, राम श्री राम। Ram's vision for us, Ram's vision for the world is not a heavenly vision. It is an earthly vision. It's a vision that has to be accomplished here and now, in this place, in this time. And here are the elements of his vision, not only his vision, but what he accomplished. How the vision that he translated into a community. If you had a vision for this nation, for this world, what would it be? Surely, nahi daridra ko dukhi na dina. There would be no poverty. Nahi daridra. But poverty was overcome. And no one suffered. Dukhi na dina. No one suffered for lack of the necessities of a good life. That's the line. Nahi daridra ko dukhi na dina. Today we have 33 goals, sustainable development goals towards which our world is aspiring, desperately hoping to achieve. One of those goals is the overcoming of poverty. Nahi daridra, ko dukhi na dina. And this was already there. For Ram, a utopian community would be one in which human beings did not suffer because of poverty. Secondly, what would you want? You want access to education for every child. Access to quality education for every child. Nahi ko abudha, na laksha nahina. In Ram Raj, no one was illiterate. Nahi ko abudha. There was no illiteracy. We have to assume that he implemented an education system. We should not think about Ram Raj as a miracle wrought by Ram. That would be wrong. Then we would be dependent on somebody miraculously overcoming poverty or ensuring education. No. If poverty was overcome, it because there was a functioning economic system that made it possible. If there was no illiteracy, it means that we have to read it as meaning that there was accessibility to quality education for all. What else would you want? What your vision would have? Overcoming poverty, education. What would be the third important element that you would think would be a flourishing community? Healthcare. Healthcare. Access to good healthcare. Good public healthcare system. Well, alpa mrityu nahi kavani hupira. No one died prematurely because of lack of care. Alpa mrityu nahi kavani hupira. Health care was accessible. Saba sundara saba viraj sharira. It was a healthy community. Saba sundara, people who were physically healthy. Saba sundara saba viraj sharira. Bodies were healthy. Health care. Saba nara karahi paraspara priti, chalahi swadharman nirata srutiriti. People were committed to the efficient performance of work in this kingdom. Chalahi swadharma. They were committed to the efficient performance of work. And that's why I said, let us not think of it as a miracle. He motivated people to perform their work. Sabanara karahi paraspara priti. And it was not just an efficient community that provided education, healthcare, and economic deeds, but sabanara karahi paraspara priti. People loved and cared for each other. It was a matter of the heart also. This was a community in which people cared and committed themselves to each other's well-being. Saba nara karahi paraspara priti, chalahi swadharma nirata sruti riti. What I see here and what I conclude with, and there's so much more dimensions to this vision that he had, is an alternative political, economic, social system. It is a kingdom free from political oppression, economic exploitation. It is one in which all enjoy the freedom and the resources to maximize their human potential. It is a vision of Ram's ideal for us. And I think it is one that is worthy, if I would say so, one that is worthy of our own commitment. It is not that I don't believe in prayer. I do believe in prayer. I pray daily. But I also don't believe that prayer alone solves human problems. And I take that from the example of Ram. He brought people together to solve problems. Yes, God inspires us. God fills us with strength. God gives us a vision. But God is not going to do the work for us. That's our task. So if our problem is lack of access to healthcare, then you have a vision, that it is God's vision that everyone has access to healthcare. Let us work to make that possible. If it's a problem of lack of access to education, then know that this is Ram's vision. Make that possible. And when you do that, then you have the beautiful vision of the Ramayana. Ramate adhik Ram karadasa. Because we have the responsibility to translate Ram's vision into reality. Ramayana says, Ram te adhik Ram karadasa. The one who does this, the servant of Ram, is greater than Ram himself. The servant of Ram translates Ram's vision into reality. So I think of partnership with God, not exclusive dependence on God, but partnership with God in building community, in solving problems, a partnership that is grounded in love and flows from love. Martin Luther King spoke of the beloved community. This was his vision. The beloved community. That is the community he described for us on that very famous speech shortly before his assassination. He was a great leader because he had a vision. The vision of the beloved community that is not unlike what we see here. A community of love, a community of human dignity, a community of human equality, a community of prosperity and flourishing for everyone. And this is what I leave with you tonight, the vision of Ram Rajya and the call to be a part of the great work, whether it's here in Trinidad or wherever you are, in whatever profession you find yourself. The realization of such a vision makes life worthy, makes life meaningful, makes life purposeful, and is worthy of our own commitment. So thank you, dear esteemed brothers and sisters, for listening to me patiently for the past hour. And may all that we shared tonight, drawn from the beautiful an inspired vision of Ramayana embed itself in our hearts and our minds and deepen our commitment to each other and to the flourishing of this nation, the flourishing of the Caribbean community, and of course, the flourishing of our world. I thank you very much for
मधुर मनोहर गिरिधर गोपाला हे 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 गिरिधर गोपाला जय जय गिरिधर गोपाला जय जय गिरिधर गोपाला जय जय गिरिधर गोपाला जय जय गिरिधर गोपाला जय गिरिधर गोपाला माधव मुरहर मधुर मनोहर 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 गिरिधर गोपाला हे 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 गिरिधर गोपाला नंद कुमारा सुंदर कारा वृंदावन संचारा नंद कुमारा मुनि जनवाला हे गिरिधर गोपाला 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 जय जय 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 गिरिधर गोपाला कौस्तुभहारा मुक्ति का दारा राधा हृदय विहारा भक्त उदारा बाल गोपाला हे गिरिधर 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 गोपाला जय जय गिरिधर गोपाला जय जय गिरिधर गोपाला जय परिपाला गोपीलोला गोवर्धन उद्धारा नंद कुमारा नवनीत छोदा गिरिधर गोपाला
We heard from Auntie Indira Sajivan, who grew up with Dad in his incarnation as a religious figurehead, who gave Dad a directive last night to ensure that he spreads the word of Dharma and morality through the teachings of Hinduism at this point on. Tonight, however, we're elated to have a colleague of Dad in another incarnation, the political field. Anthony Smart is a Trinidadian politician and a lawyer. He served as a member of Parliament and the Attorney General of Trinidad during the coup. Dad's association with Uncle Tony spans the ONR and the NAR. Uncle Tony has said in interviews, which mirrors what Dad has said to us, that the NAR was about bringing people together rather than separating them by race. Whilst he served as AG, many may know the story, at least the older heads would, of how he escaped the coup with the assistance of the staff at the Red House. He also bravely was the one to pilot the motion to extend the state of emergency, arguing that the amnesty document that was made with the Muslimin was in fact invalidated. He currently serves as a chairman of the board of directors of First Citizens Bank and also is an avid golfer, having returned from the lush golf courses of India late last year. Before I invite Uncle Tony to the podium, I would share his advice to the younger generation with you. Try to do the right thing publicly. Whilst it may not get you where you want to go, don't sacrifice your integrity and principles for material wealth. Uncle Tony?
Namaste. Thank you so much for your words of introduction. I am humbled, almost brought to tears. My salutations may not be in the correct order, so please forgive me if they are not. Professor Emeritus Dr. Anand Rambachan, I was prepared to stay for another hour to hear the full discourse on vision. I listened to your every single word, and I have been educated by it. Thank you so much. Dr. Surujrattan, Rambachan and family, my colleague for more than 40 years, I think it is. Members of Parliament, Mr. David Lee and Mr. Indar Singh, Rudy Indar Singh. The Mayor of Arima, His Worship, Mr. Baliram Maharaj. And I must mention here two of my colleagues in the law for, in one case, more than 50 years, in another case, nearly 50 years. Mr. Ramesh Maharaj, who I understand is the president of this beautiful, beautiful mandir, and Mr. Chan Chedi Singh and his wife, who are also present. This is such a beautiful building. It's the first time I've been here, And I want to say it compares favorably with the palaces and forts that I saw in Delhi, Jaipur, and Agra just a few months ago in October. Wonderful building. I am humbled to be asked to address you, hopefully just for a few minutes. I'm not as eloquent as Dr. Professor Rambachan, who can speak for an hour or two and keep your attention. So I will speak for a few minutes about my colleague, as I said, for over 40 years in the politics. And I'm very grateful to his family for asking me to say a few words here this evening. I will restrict my words mainly to my experiences with Suruj in the early 1980s. When we set out on a journey, young men, Suruj was 31 years old. I was 34. I'm a little older than him. And to present a vision to this country, a vision of unity of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And it was amazing to see the energy and the eloquence of Dr. Rambachan during that period. I was the general secretary of the party, and the architect of building the structure of the party was a man who everybody knows by the name of Mr. Ferdinand Ferreira. And I was talking to him recently, and he remarked about the energy and the commitment of Suruj during that period. Ferdy had all the knowledge. You had been in politics for 24 years. I didn't have any experience. Suruj had no experience either. So we listened to him and he guided us. And he said to me recently, he has never seen someone who gave a complete commitment to the job that we were doing to build one love in this country. As a matter of fact, Ferdy said to me, one day we went down to Avocat and he met Suruj's mother. And his mother said to Ferdy, "Take care of my son." She knew that he was venturing into a field that was new, it was different, that had its pitfalls, and she delivered her son to Ferdy. And well, today you can see the result of that delivery, of the contribution, the prodigious contribution that Dr. Rambachan has made to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I'll tell you two funny stories. Well, one is funny, one wasn't so funny. We were at a political meeting in Kakandi, in Felicity. And Suruj was expatiating on the platform. I was sitting, myself and Herbie Atwell was sitting behind him, and then all of a sudden I experienced my first rotten egg. And I remember, I think Suruj must have got hit with one. And I remember saying to Suruj, I was hiding behind him, I said, "Go ahead, Suruj, keep talking, keep talking." And Suruj continued talking. And that was, at that time, it wasn't very funny. But as we reflect now, we can talk about it and laugh at it. Another incident that occurred that I will always remember, and it suggests the sort of esteem that we had for Suruj, Ferdy and myself had for Suruj at that time. It was the Sunday night before the election in 1981. And of course, the ONR had been through various phases. We were doing very well, and then Dr. Williams died, and then we were not doing very well, and then people were saying, give Georgie a chance, and so on. And the night before the election, Ferdy and myself were talking about the possibilities the next day. And Ferdy said, we were on the telephone, and Ferdy said to me, Anthony, we are not going to win a single seat, including Carl Hudson Phillips. And I said to Ferdy, not even Suruj? He said, not even Suruj. And so it came to pass. But I want to say that Dr. Rambachan was one of the pioneers and one of the architects of the vision of One Love, which morphed into the NAR, and then it was realized, if only for a time. But I want to say that politics is the art of the possible. So after we lost the election in 1991, I tried to keep the vision going for a period of 10 years. But it didn't work, and I withdrew. Not so with Suruj. He understood that politics is the art of the possible, and he found a way to make his contribution to Trinidad and Tobago, while I withdrew. I didn't sulk, but I withdrew because I felt that I needed a perfect vehicle. But I want to say that the politics of One Love is not dead. It is a work in progress. So that Suruj was able to continue his life in politics and make tremendous contributions to the country of Trinidad and Tobago. As chairman of the St. Patrick County Council, as mayor of Shogunas, and even before that, as ambassador to Brazil. And in my salutations, I forgot to mention Ambassador Emeritus, Mr. Patrick Edwards, who is here with us today. And I also see Ms. Louis Leasing here, and his dear wife, Ria. So he went on to make his contributions, first as ambassador to Brazil, and when he came back from Brazil, he became a senator and a minister in the Ministry of Tourism, and then contested the election, which we all lost, except for the 2 seats in Tobago. But he didn't end there. He continued in the politics, and he was able thereafter to become, as I said, mayor of Shogunas, where he made a tremendous contribution. He was also Minister of Works, countless other ministries, Minister of Foreign Affairs, so all along making his contribution. And we are indeed grateful, and I think the country should be grateful to Suruj for the contribution that he has made over the years. He is now retired from politics and building properties all over the place. So he's a builder. And he does it well. I am very grateful to have been asked to speak here today, and for the regard that Dr. Rambachan's family, his wife and daughter, have for me. For years now, on the night of Diwali, I have dinner at their home. And for me, that is a recognition of the regard that Suruj has for me, and I'm very grateful for it. So Suruj, you've got to 75. Tomorrow you'll be 75. Would you believe that today I was at a luncheon for one of our colleagues who was 80 yesterday, a luncheon at a restaurant in Shogunas. Like yourself, he's a doctor, and like yourself, he's a former ambassador or high commissioner for Trinidad to Nigeria. Dr. Randolph Peters, I had lunch with him today and I had the opportunity and honor to say a few words on his behalf. So it's a very special day for me today to speak on behalf of Dr. Randolph Peters, whom I have known now for 61 years. I met him when we were 17 years old. And Dr. Rambachan, whom I've known for 45 years. So it's a great day for me, and I'm very grateful to you, Suruj and family, for giving me this opportunity. And may you, Suruj, have at least 70, 75, and at least 25 more years of life and health. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Uncle Tony. As you mentioned, Freddie Ferreira, by chance, the message came up on my phone that Freddie Ferreira sent for Daddy's 70th birthday, where he said that whatever the national political narrative, whichever side one may choose to follow, both the participants and the electorate whom we choose to influence must never forget that such commitment is always a great personal sacrifice. And Dr. Rambachan has given almost 2 scores of his life in the service of his country. And then he said, I shall always cherish the times we worked together to build a better nation under the leadership of the late Carl Hudson Phillips with the slogan, we must do better. With that, I would like to ask David Lee, Uncle, as Chief Whip, to say a few words.
Thank you, Sitaram, and good night. Let me first say, I want to say thank you to Dr. Suraj Rambachan and his family for really inviting myself and my colleagues here tonight. It's really an honor to be here. I was at his 70th birthday 5 years ago. I think we had a little celebration at the Diwali Nagar. And again, after 5 years later, it's an honor to be here again. I've known Dr. Rambachan, I would say closely, in the last 10 years. Starting back when I was chairman of MIC and Dr. Rambachan was the Minister of Local Government at the time. And we did some good work for the young men and women in Trinidad and Tobago. And I've looked and I've learned as an opposition member under Dr. Rambachan since 2015, and I would say I continue to learn because every day or every so often he would send me messages of political strategy. I always take it in good stride, whether good or bad. So I always keep learning under Dr. Rambachan. So I want to wish you well, Dr. Rambachan. I listened to Mr. Smart here tonight, and I also would like to wish you another 25 years of good health. And I know you will continue. My mother is 91 years old, so I'm sure she and yourself will continue in good health. Thank you so much, and I wish you a very, very happy birthday.
मुझे दास बना कर रख ली ने भगवान तू अपने चरणों में मुझे दास बना कर रख ली ने भगवान तू अपने चरणों में 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 मुझे दास बना कर रख लीना भगवान तू अपने चरणों में भला खातर जान के रख लेना भगवान तू अपने चरणों में मुझे दास बना कर रख लेना भगवान तू अपने चरणों में 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 मुझे दास बना कर रख लेना जब अधम से अधम के तारा है जब अधम से अधम के तारा है उसमें ही नाम हमारा है उसमें ही नाम हमारा है जब अधम को तारा है उसमें ही नाम हमारा है उसमें ही नाम हमारा है मुझे भार समझ कर रख लेना भगवान तू अपने चरणों में मुझे दास बना कर रख लेना भगवान तू अपने चरणों में 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 मुझे दास बना कर रख लीने
I think it's only fair, seeing that we didn't allow him to speak last night, that we allow Dad to say a few words in response to last night's speeches and tonight.
My daughter is warning me there that it not be more than a few words. Namaste, Sitaram, Sairam, good evening everyone. Let me first thank everybody for being here, and especially Mayor Baliram from Arima, Baliram Maharaj, Mayor Lee Singh and his dear wife. I call you Mayor Lee Singh because once a mayor, always a mayor. Never stop being a mayor. That's correct. Distinguished mayor, in fact. Chan Cheri Singh, who also spoke at at my 70th birthday. Chan, thank you for being here. And my very, very good friend and colleague at the borough, Danmati Ramrup, who challenged me 2 days ago, Anand. She said, on 7 occasions, you sang 108 bhajans non-stop. Can you do 75 non-stop? Well, Dalmati, I'm going to do it in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I'm going to do it for charity. My dear friends, I want to say how grateful I am for your presence here this evening. I want to say how thankful I am for your friendship. I want to say how thankful I am for your support. I want to say how thankful I am for the love you have shown me, for the tolerance that you have given to me. And I want to tell you that I always remember people who have not only been good to me, but people who have been critical of me, and I don't remember them with any hate. I don't remember them with any venom. my brother Anand taught me an important lesson. He said, you must forgive, but you do not have to continue to have a relationship, but you must always forgive. And I try to live with an attitude of forgiveness. I want to also tonight pay really great tribute to my wife Nandini. And for someone to survive with me for 40 years, you have to be really good. You know, it is a reality that, and I say this, you know, with all the conviction in my heart, that Nandini always supported me, never opposed me. And whenever she had to be critical of me, she never did it in a public way. She would always do it in a very private way and in a very supportive way. Many times, you know, I would disagree with her, but many times I will have to follow a lot of what she said, because she has a way of seeing things that perhaps, you know, I would not normally see, being involved in a situation. And sometimes you need to have a consequence thinker in order to ensure that you follow what is eventually right. Tonight I want to also pay very, very high tribute to my daughter Ranjana and my son Adi. Ranjana qualified as an attorney at law in London. I was then a minister of government, and I was very worried, Rudy, I was very worried as to where she was going to get a job in Trinidad. And when she had finished with her first degree, I said, you know, where are you going to work? And my uncle, he was the longest serving attorney, by the way, in Trinidad. He went to court even at age 90. And I said, Uncle, Dad's always wanted to be a lawyer. So she went and she studied law. Then she went to England. And then she came back again. I said, what are you going to do? And I said, Ranju, there are so many lawyers, you do not want to go into courts. Why don't you do a master's degree in a specialized field of law? And then she did intellectual property rights, business, and what have you. And, you know, in a very short time, Tony, she has become a partner in the firm of Polliner and Black, which is quite an achievement for a young lawyer like herself. But what is interesting to me, you know, is despite being all of that, together with her husband Ishan, they have been very supportive of me, very, very supportive. There's nothing that I ask of them that they don't make every effort to make sure that I have. This function, believe it or not, is of her doing and Ishan's doing and Nandini's doing. I really didn't have a hand to play in this function. Tonight you're seeing a group of people, young and not so young, on the stage. And the three of us in this group here, three of us, are now over 70 years old. And it was on the April 16, 1966, that we got together and formed the Saraswati Kirtan Mandali. And my brother who just sang there, Balrup, he has been singing with me along with Indar for the last 58 years. And our friendship spans 58 years as a group. So in fact, on the 16th of April, 2 days after my birthday, we'll be celebrating the 58th year. But what is even more interesting, and I think Anand will remember this, it was my mother who brought all of us together to form the Saraswati Kirtan Mandali along with my father. Even then she was concerned about what we'll be doing with our spiritual lives. And she, you know, supported us through that whole number of years. We traversed this country, believe it or not, we traversed this country up and down. With Mr. Baliram Maharaj, I first went to his house in 1968 to sing. That was 55 years ago. It's quite a long time. But my friends, I want to pay tribute tonight in a very special way. I first want to start with Mr. Ramesh Prasad Maharaj. I have a very curious way of doing things. When I was 60 years of age, I decided that I will try to find the 60 persons who influenced my life. And I sat down and listed those 60 persons. And I had typed up about 193 pages, the book, of those 60 persons who impacted my life. And I thought I will write my life history best by reflecting on those who impacted on my life. Now that I'm 75, I'm just completing the next 15. So I'll have 75. And God willing, every year from now, I'll do one a year. But Ramesh, I wanted to start with you. But what I read here is from what I wrote in 2009, so that it still holds valid today. But I thought this was one way that I wanted to share this. And I said to Ramesh, as I look back into my life and the many persons who have added value to my life, you stand out as one of those persons to whom I owe a sincere debt of gratitude. You gave me the opportunity to understand the importance of charity, of service, and of caring for the unfortunate in our society. I refer in particular to when you sat down in my home in Aruka together with now deceased Sunarayan Singh and we discussed the Sai Krishna Children's Home in Londonville, and Ramesh donated 10,000 square feet of land for that particular home. And we built that home for children in central Trinidad. I always remember Ramesh saying, he was also motivated to do that because his uncle used to tell him he'll make him an orphan. And Ramesh said, that stuck in his mind about children who would be in need. I want to just quote Ramesh. You are a most wonderful example of how one's wealth is to be used. And you, despite your detractors, have persevered in your goal of establishing this ashram of great quality in this country. The presence of the 85 feet high Murti of Sri Hanumanji is testimony, in my view, to the heights to which you aspire in terms of vision and continue to aspire for the Hindu community. Your charity is phenomenal. In life, despite all the good you do, there will always be persons who question your motives, who criticize, although they are incapable of adding any value. I've learned from you to ignore, when necessary, that kind of person and to keep the vision in mind. The Dattatreya Yoga Center, despite the contributions of so many others, remain a testimony of the power of your vision that started with the Caribbean Hindu organization. I also recall your vision of starting the Hindu Credit Union. Yes, it was Ramesh Prasad Maharaj's vision. Few will know that there were other major projects which I know about and which you have worked quietly on, but the public does not know. So Ramesh, I would like to recognize you and thank you for the support you continue to give and the encouragement you gave me also politically. I have not forgotten those times. And my friends, tonight you'll have to give me permission to do something that I know one person or two persons at least in this audience would not approve me doing, but it's my duty to do. It's really my duty. And among those 60 persons to whom I wrote letters in 2009 were my sister-in-law and my brother. And I want to quote from that particular letter. Because if I live to 76, 77, whatever, this is my foundation. Apart from my mom, particularly my mom, and a hard working father. And this is what I had to say to my brother. I said to him that I identified 60 persons who helped my career. Others who have been supportive of my politics, others who were caring and even ran the personal risk of being ostracized for being at my side in controversial circumstances, like Carl Hudson Phillips, who never abandoned me. And this project of 60 letters was motivated by the need I felt to say to people the things that need to be said when they are alive and not when they are dead. In addition, by writing these 60 letters, it helped me to fulfill the value that I cherish, which is to live with an attitude of gratitude. In this regard, Gita, this is what I wrote to you, Anantanand. Nandini and I continue to be ever grateful to you and Gita, and through both of you to Dr. Shashikant Sani for my son's surgery in 1996, April 1st. So April 1st this year marked 27 years since that surgery took place, and because of that, he survived. It is a day every year which me and Nandini remember with loving gratitude to you and of course the Shriners Hospital. I remember the afternoon we discovered that surgery would be necessary. We were sitting on the lawn in the front of Anand's house in Apple Valley, and I was making arrangements to secure funding, which at that time, 27 years ago, was going to cost about a minimum of 60,000 US, which I didn't have. And you said to me, Anand, and I'm sure these were your words, we have been serving people all our lives. This is going to work out somehow. And that very evening, Dr. Sani, a friend of Anand, called you to offer his help. The rest is history. I remember you saying to me, he said to you he was going to Alaska and that he will be back in 4 days and not to worry, leave it to him. That was, what was important about that experience was the manner in which you and Geeta took complete responsibility for a problem and actually made it yours. In that situation, there were two verses of scriptures that came to mind, verses that have continued to inspire me and as well to remind me that the purpose of being human is the security and happiness of all. And the first verse was a verse of friendship. It is a flagrant sin written in the Ramayana and spoken by Sri Ram. It is a flagrant sin even to look on those who are not distressed at the sight of a sorrowing friend. One should regard one's own troubles, though they may be mountain-like, as of no account, more account than a particle of dust. But a friend's troubles, though really no bigger than a particle of dust, should be regarded as the greatest mountain. And the second verse, which I learned from you, and which I remember because of that, is this. To those who worship me, from Bhagavad Gita, thinking of none other, who are ever devout, I bring to them what they do not now have, and secure what they already have. Especially with respect to this verse from Bhagavad Gita, it has helped me to renew my faith in God. I have seen proof of the veracity of this verse over and over, especially where I lost my consultancy when I became mayor of Chagonas. I've always kept this verse in mind as a testimony of the fact that God does not abandon his devotees, those who have abiding faith in him. Few of you will know that when I fought for the ONR in 1981, 2 weeks after, when I went back to my job at UE, I was given a letter that simply stated, come August, we will not be in a position to renew your contract, signed by Max Richards. I can say this tonight publicly. I invited Professor Richards to Brazil when I was ambassador, and he was very surprised that I invited him. And the last night he spent in Brazil, he had gotten chicken pox, and he said he wanted to see me. So I said, I'll come across to the hotel. He said, no, I want to come to your house. And he came to the house, and then he asked, where's your wife? I said she was upstairs. He says, no, call her. And he sat down there, and he said, I want to say something to both of you. I never enjoyed writing that letter, but I was asked to fire you. Nandi is here, and she's testimony of what? And that's the price you pay in politics. And I have no regrets paying the price. Because if you serve, serve. If you have to speak, speak. And when you must do, do. My friends, in my own case, when I got ill in May of 2007, Geeta personally took on my situation, she and her brother. Words are never going to be sufficient, Geeta, to express my gratitude for what was a very challenging situation, one that brought me closer than ever to accepting my mortality, but at the same time increasing the urgency to complete purposeful activities and leave a worthwhile legacy. Nandini was in Canada with Ranju, who was doing her final year at the University of New Brunswick. And I was teaching in a classroom, and I started to talk all kinds of things. And Mrs. Ramrup here came and held my hand and put me to sit down. I ended up at Medical Associates. And there I saw a neurosurgeon and another doctor. And I alone am there in a room. And this neurosurgeon and the doctor outside the room saying to each other, how are we going to tell this man that he has 6 months to live? And I checked out of the hospital. I checked out of Medical Associates that evening, and I went home. And And I called Geeta. She sent me to get MRI. I got the MRI, sent it. It took Geeta 16 years to tell me what was wrong with me. 16 years. Last year, in January, at a dinner table, I don't know how it came about. I said, Geeta, can you tell me what was really wrong with me? And then she related with a cancer and whatever, and that even she had doubts I would have survived. But I survived. I survived because I had 2 divine experiences during those 2 weeks. 2 divine experiences, and I survived. And I'll tell you one. I was there sitting, looking at the television, and there was a lot of preaching, so the noise was getting to me. So I went to take off the television, and in doing that, I changed the channel. And a completely blue screen came on the channel. And a hand started to write at the bottom of the TV, healing with the hands of love. And it turned out to be a documentary of Sri Satya Sai Baba healing people of brain tumors at his ashram in Puttaparthi. I had other divine experiences like that. So when I ended up at Rochester for surgery, the same year, Geeta was there at my side all the time. Nandini was there at my side. And the doctors came and said, listen, you brought 2 MRIs here, and they're both showing different things. We want to do a third. When they did the third, the doctor came on the floor and said, and Geeta, you could correct me, he said, on this floor we give people bad news, but today we are happy to give you good news. We can't see anything more. It's all vanished. And that happened. So that's why I have to be grateful to God and grateful for life. But Geeta, you took on with Anand these problems of mine, and I have never. But I had come very close, believe it or not, to accepting my mortality. But I also decided there and then that I would not die, and that I would live to do more purposeful things. That was my commitment, really, that I would not die. And I started to see the things I wanted to do. And the conversation which I had on your porch in Minnesota on the day after I left hospital was one of the most important I ever had. Your revelations about my mom, Anant, and my Mui, and her communications with you, this is after she had passed away, communicated with him, with respect to my illness before and after, also confirmed that our ancestors do look after us, and that there is a hereafter, however that is understood. My mother had come to warn him about my illness. And then she came back one day and was smiling to him and said, everything is going to be all right now. This is your ancestors. My friends, I must admit that I was prepared to die and had actually contemplated making all my funeral arrangements, since I felt that it would have been difficult for my family to handle, given my own experiences with the death of my mother and father. When I returned to Trinidad after that experience, we had a function called Ram Kripa, which was the mercy of Ram at Balroop's temple, the Atma Gyan Mandir. And it was a most comforting evening. Even my 2 nephews came to be with me. And such an event would have been incomplete, Geeta, without you, Anand, Akshar, and Ashish. My ability, my dear brothers and sisters, I'm writing Anand this all this, my ability to deliver proper discourses from the Ramayana is due entirely to my brother Anand. While I have some ability to sing, my understanding of the Ramayana and delivering messages from the text was enhanced as a result of the 10 Diwali Nagar Yagnas that my brother conducted and lectures at the JFK Lecture Hall at the University of the West Indies since 1974. You know what I used to do? My father would tape all his lectures, and then I will take my father's cassettes and I will transcribe into my own handwriting dozens and dozens of pages of his discourses, and then seek to write the discourses I delivered based on what he had taught there. And Anand, you gave me a lifetime gift through your lectures and discussions. However, it is the teachings which you provided on Vedanta by introducing us to so many texts that helped me to put in perspective what Hinduism is really about, and especially so to answer the question, who am I? You had a chart called the Koshas, which remains indelibly written in my mind. Without that series of lectures, a lot of us would have continued to flounder as Hindus. The intellectual face you gave to Hinduism at the time when the satsang movement of Sai Baba was encouraging people, mainly through kirtan, and the hope of a miracle to be a stronger Hindu, created an impetus for knowledge, but also encouraged other young persons to travel to India and return to do religious work. The impetus for knowledge of Hinduism, as well as the reformation of Hindu thought and the presentation of Hinduism, was achieved in this country as a result of your yagnas. The value of Hinduism was taken to even further heights through the Diwali Nagar yagnas. It was the first time that historic radio broadcasts of yagnas were held in this country, and it led the way for what today is commonly called the yagnas being transmitted through the radio stations. Our group, the Saraswati Kirtan Mandali, accompanied you through those 10 years, and then through your visits to Canada, the US, and wherever. And in the process, this group of young people set new standards and expectations with respect to singing. I consider myself privileged to be at the feet of Anand and to have been part of that era that provided for self-discovery and self-understanding. And as I reflect, Anand, on those years, 60 years when I wrote this, many childhood memories of us as children are coming back to me. Playing cricket on a crude pitch near the cow pen down the hill, table tennis with Uncle Dad's and the team when we competed in the St. Patrick competition, learning to play music on a bongo drum which was made with two klimpans, until Uncle Dad's bought us a blue metallic bongo drum, and my grandfather brought us a grip-type harmonium from Das stores in San Fernando. In 1969, he paid $90 for that harmonium. Now that was a large amount of money in those days, the 60s. But he sacrificed that because he wanted us to develop our talents. He must be smiling wherever he is to see his legacy still being lived out here even tonight through his grandchildren. As children, we had the unconditional love of our parents, a gift we can never repay. Having to deal with your own children makes you even more appreciative of the sacrifices made by your own parents. It imposes a deep sense of guilt for the many transgressions on your part towards them, now that you find yourself on the receiving end from your children. Perhaps children do not realize consciously the hurts they perpetrate upon a parent by an indiscriminate word or behavior. They don't take enough time to appreciate the effort to build a family legacy, and that one indiscriminate act can destroy a lifetime of effort at building a legacy. Fortunately, Anand, I said here, our children have made us proud and have not gone the route that will make us shame. This is part of what we inherited from our parents, though they would have been strict with us to a large extent. 60, within the next 10 years, that's what I wrote then. Time whizzes past. It defeats life. Purposefulness is the objective. In reality, a person like me has become 520 and hopefully 780 more weekends to spend on the planet. How each one of these weekends end will determine the fulfillment of the vision and the life satisfaction that is derived. All of this sounds morbid. It is not. It is beginning to live the reality. One may even regard it as a necessary reality check. And I wrote, this letter to Anand. There's much more in it. But I could conclude by saying, life is a dash. At 60, then when I was 60, I think that I've done well as I could. I've lived with great risk as a politician, both personally and with respect to earning a living. Thankfully, the commercial community in this country was kind to me. and particularly Mr. Hubert Allen at the Royal Bank and the Royal Bank board. They never looked at my politics. They looked at what I could have done. And I thank them ever and ever for that. Tony had walked as a lecturer at the university, 14 banks they were in Trinidad then, to sell a program, a diploma in management studies, to be done privately in the banks. I reached Hubert Allen as the last one of the 13. And it was the month of December, and he said to me, I'm going on leave. And when I come back in April, I'll call you. I said, well, that's it. And that man called me on the 2nd of April when he came back. I had led to the Diploma in Management Studies at the Royal Bank, which was the first diploma for any organization with, over a period of 9 months, which became then to be recognized by the IOB as an entrance into the EMBA program. And then that day I helped set up Roy Tech and the University of New Brunswick program and what have you as the academic advisor. But the intent of that letter then, Gita and Anand, was to let you know that you have had a most important and significant impact on my life. I thank you for the interventions you made at crucial points in my life. As I thank Nandini for the same thing, I thank Ranju for the same thing. They made very, very crucial impacts on my life. And Nandini continues to do the same. There's not a night I arrive at home that Nandini doesn't come downstairs at the dinner table to meet me, to make sure where it's 9, 10 in the night that I have something to eat. I leave home, believe it or not, at age 75. I leave home at 5:45 to 6 a.m. every morning. And by 6:45, I'm in Faisalabad. And when I left politics, I didn't see politics as something that was the end of my life. Believe it or not, I don't feel any attachment to the politics. I don't feel any attachment to the positions I have held. I feel a sense of freedom from it. I don't look back and say, like I have many colleagues suffering tabanka, that they are no longer in a position. I have none of that. Absolutely none whatsoever. It is impossible for you to believe that. I have none. And over the last 8 years, what have I done? Believe it or not. I've built 50 houses on my development and sold the 50 houses. And I've kept myself going with that. And every week, Tuesday and Saturday, for the last 4 years, with Balrup and others, I have a virtual satsang, the longest running virtual satsang ever in this part of the world. So, live purposefully, Chan. Have a vision, as he says, but make the vision happen. And you're going to live long, and you're going to live happy. Thank you all, my friends. Thank you very much.
Before we close with Arti, we'd like to thank everybody who's attended Dad's birthday over the last... Hi, Ayush. Who's attended Dad's birthday over the last 2 nights. Firstly, tonight I would like to thank Uncle Ramesh and the executive of the Dattatreya Yoga Center for allowing us to use your beautiful temple for the satsang. It has really been lovely here, and we're really happy to be here tonight. Thank you to Uncle Anand and Auntie Gita for always being available and ready to come to Trinidad for any occasion. All I had to do is say, Uncle Anand, he turned in 75, you know what we're going to do. And I had the dates in hand. I'm so happy today that Uncle Rana is here with his musical expertise, and I hope we hear him sing a little more. And as always, my forever gratitude to those people who are on stage who are nothing less than family to us. And then we have Prush in the corner with his sound system. Thank you, everybody who's done everything to make this a success. Okay, sorry, Sorry, can everybody stand for Arti, please?
We sing the night in praise of Hanumanji. Hello. कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, मेरी राम जी के देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। कि जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, मेरा राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। मनी राम संग जपता तुम्हारा सदा नाम, मनी राम संग जपता तुम्हारा सदा नाम। अपने राम जीत देना हो जय सिया राम, अपने राम जीत देना हो जय सिया राम। जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया, दीनहीन से सहारे महावीर तुम हो, दीनहीन के सहारे महावीर तुम हो। अपने भक्तों की जगाते तकदीर तुम हो, अपने भक्तों की जगाते तकदीर तुम हो। हर दुखियों के हाथ तुम लेता तो थाम, हर दुखियों के हाथ तुम लेते तो थाम। मेरा राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। ओ जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम। महाबाली महायोध्या महासंत तुम हो, महाबाली महायोध्या तुम संत तुम हो। लाते सूखे हुए बागों में बसंत तुम हो, लाते सूखे हुए बागों में बसंत तुम हो। तेरे भक्ति के आत्मा तो मिला तया राम, तेरे भक्ति के आत्मा तो मिला तया राम। मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम। पूरी सराही हमारी हर आश करना, पूरी सराही हमारी हर आश करना। बाबा भक्तों को कभी ना निराश करना, बाबा भक्तों को कभी ना निराश करना। दोनों चरण तुम्हारे है लाखों सुखदाम, दोनों चरण तुम्हारे है लाखों सुखदाम। मेरी राम जी के देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम। मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम, मेरी राम जी को देना हो जय सिया राम। जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम, जो केसरी के लाल मेरा छोटा साया काम।
ओम ध्याओ शांति अंतरिक्षम शांति पृथिवीं शांति आपा शांतिर ओषधय शांति वनस्पतय शांति विश्वदेव शांति ब्रह्मा शांति सर्वं शांति शांतिरेव शांति सामा शांतिरेधि। ओम शांति शांति शांति।
Jai Sitaram. I'm glad you are standing. Remain standing. I am particularly happy and honored to have in our presence an international scholar and religionist, someone who represents, I use the word represents because it is a fact, the Hindus of the world at international forums. And I ask you to give him a round of applause. Dr. Anantanand Rambachan. Amongst all the Hindu scholars in India and in diaspora. Anantanand professor stands out supreme. He is well known in the Americas, in Europe, and all over the world, even in India. And he is from Trinidad and Tobago. So while you all are standing and we give him this ovation, I will now ask him and give him the opportunity to descend from the throne to come and mix with us. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip. For a great son of the soil. And at the same time, a very happy birthday to my very good friend, Suruj. I don't want to start to talk about Suruj because it will go for too long, and I know some of you are very hungry. So, Sitaram, good evening, good night.
बार बार दिन ये आए, बार बार दिल ये गाए, तू जिए हजारों सा ये मेरी है आरज़ू। बार बार दिन ये आए, बार बार दिल ये गाए, बार बार दिन ये आए, बार बार दिल ये गाए, तू जिए हजारों सा ये मेरी है आरज़ू। हैप्पी बर्थडे टू यू, ओहो हैप्पी बर्थडे, हैप्पी बर्थडे टू अंकल सूरज, हैप्पी बर्थडे टू यू। बार बार दिन ये आए, बार बार दिल ये गाए, तू दिए हजारों सा ये मेरी है आरज़ू। हैप्पी बर्थडे टू यू, ओहो हैप्पी बर्थडे टू यू, हैप्पी बर्थडे टू अंकल सूरज, हैप्पी बर्थडे टू यू। बेकरार हो के दामन थाम लूं मैं किसका, क्या मिसाल रूह है तेरी, नाम लूं मैं किसका। नहीं नहीं ऐसा हंसी कोई नहीं है, जिस पे ये नजर रुक जाए, बेमिसाल जो कहलाए, तू दिए हजारों सा ये मेरी है आरज़ू। हैप्पी बर्थडे टू यू, ओहो हैप्पी बर्थडे टू यू, हैप्पी बर्थडे टू अंकल सूरज, हैप्पी बर्थडे टू यू। It's a happy, happy, happy day. It's a holy, holy, holy day. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. It's a happy, happy, happy day. It's a holy, holy, holy day. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. Listen to the angels singing in the sky. Listen to the ocean waves dance with joy. Listen to the birds singing in the trees. All of them singing happy birthday. It's a happy, happy, happy day. It's a holy, holy, holy day. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday. It's a happy, happy, happy day. It's a holy, holy, holy day. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. It's a beautiful, beautiful day. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. birthday to you. Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday. Hip, hip, hip. Hooray!
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Narayan, Narayan, Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Narayan, Narayan, Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan, Narayan, Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Narayan, Narayan, Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan Narayan Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Om Narayan, Narayan, Jai Jai Govinda Hare. Om Narayan, Narayan, Jai Jai Gopal Hare.
Kuldev Vilaya Pitritirtha, a shrine for our ancestors.
Villa Santosh, 3-in-suite bedroom villa in Silver Palms, Tobago, fully air-conditioned, indoor and outdoor cooking, secured parking, pool. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, or call or WhatsApp 1-868-327-0357.
Springland Gardens, quality homes for a lifetime of happiness. Homes starting at 1.8 million with 3 ensuite bedrooms, fully air-conditioned, partially furnished. Find us on Facebook or Instagram or call us at 1-868-792-1155.